well, chances are you've dreamed about being a millionaire. I think about it every time I go to Publix and get my lottery ticket.
According to the magazine The Economist, many millennials believe they'll one day be millionaires, and while being positive is a good thing, many of them are not financially stable just yet.
Here now with some pointers to millennials to realistically grow their wealth is financial expert James Virgilio, fiduciary investor and financial planner with Chacon Diaz and Virgilio Wealth Management. You gave me a lot of words on this Monday.
You did a great job.
All right, well, welcome back. So first of all, you say millennials are less stable but more motivated. Explain that.
Well, the idea is that millennials are behind. You'll read a lot of news about this, but that's actually not necessarily true. We measure wealth in a variety of ways historically, and one of those ways is home ownership. And the majority of millennials are not purchasing homes. However, this is actually a good thing. Home ownership is not a good way to build wealth. And I know, just let that settle in. Owning a home is not a good investment, right?
Right.
Kind of counterintuitive. But owning a home comes with a lot of costs.
Yeah.
And if you factor in the cost of owning your home, you actually lose about 11% per year in return. Not a good investment.
Yeah, well, we were talking during the break. I said, you know, some people like to rent shame you if you're renting. And I was saying, people do, well, aren't you going to buy a home again? So how do you deal with rent shaming?
I talk about this all the time. I lecture at the University of Florida, and it's the topic that comes up the most. Culturally, there's a lot of pressure to own a home.
Yeah.
What you just mentioned is true. You become an adult, it's time to own a home.
Right.
But financially, if you were to go to Harvard or Yale or Stanford and ask their real estate professor, is owning a home an investment, they would unequivocally tell you, no, it is not. So it's become an American ideal, but it is not a good investment. In fact, renting and investing will make you much better off financially than owning a home would.
So what should millennials be doing to kind of get things in order? Because the student debt is one of the big parts of this, and a lot of them are moving back home after college and things like that. So what can we do?
Yeah, this is the primary reason why millennials are behind. If you're looking at what's really going on wealth measures, is they have a lot more in student loan debt. This is also primarily I'm a millennial, right? Our own fault. We've gone to take on further education that is not going to pay for itself. And what I mean by that is if you're going to go to school, grad school or otherwise, and you have to borrow more than what you're going to make in your first year coming out of school, that is not a good financial decision. And a lot of millennials will go to school and take out $100,000 of debt, and then their first year salary is $50,000. They've set themselves back many years trying to pay that debt back. So you need to equal that out. If you're going to borrow 100, you need to make 100 coming out of school to make that a good financial decision.
Yeah, right off the bat, after your first year, you're kind of
Correct,
starting
your
salary.
first year. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And retirement savings. I know millennials, the last thing they're thinking about is retiring. They're just trying to get into the business. What would you tell us about saving for retirement?
You know, millennials are actually the best at this. If you look at baby boomers or Gen X, millennials save more for retirement than any other generation. They're already saving at least 10% on average, which is exactly what you want to do. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that millennials are more financially prepared when it comes to saving and investing for their future than generations before them. So it's a weird thing to read, millennials are behind, yet by other metrics, they're actually ahead. And so continue to invest 10% of your gross income for your retirement. That is the best thing you can do as soon as you get your first job.
So we're talking 401k. So under the little thing of what's your percentage, you want to put 10%.
Absolutely. Even if
goal.
your employer's matching 4, 5, 6%, always do 10% on your own. That way, if you change your job, you're used to saving that 10%.
Wow.
That's going to give you a good habit for your life. If you do that, it will give you a lot of flexibility when you enter your late 50s, early 60s with retirement.
That's aggressive.
Yes.
I could not do that when I got out. But
I made $14,000 a year at my first job, but that's something for another conversation.
what do I eat? But James, what about taking advantage of technology? You say take advantage of technology.
This is another thing millennials are really good at. You can use spending apps like Mint.com to track everything you spend if you wanted to. You can use Venmo to exchange money with your friends. There's a whole host of financial apps and technology pieces that previous generations did not have. This is a useful way to track what's going on, to find out where you're spending your money. If you can cut back here or increase there. If you're living off $14,000, you might want to really follow that closely, right?
I
Find
want
out what's
a
going on.
roommate. That's where I get stuff. I didn't get a roommate.
That's a good thing as well, yeah. So you can use technology to your advantage. Now, I think it's important to manage our own psychology and not over-track everything you spend. You can kind of get lost in tracking every dollar. That's not a path to happiness. But it's good to know what you're doing on an annual basis for sure. That's important to look at.
All right. Well, lots of good tips.
I've got a
Thank
lot
you
to
so
work on,
much.
that's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I think I feel behind now. All right. Thanks. We'll see you again. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.